Hello, I'm Meredith Blackwell, and this is Teresa Iturriaga from originally Venezuela. And we're at the 11th International Mycological Congress, sponsored by the International Mycological Association. And I've known Teresita for a long time, and in fact, I visited her in Venezuela as a guest at a meeting a number of years ago. I don't remember the year, but it was an auspicious time there because I remember many of the judges had just been fired the morning I was to travel to Venezuela. And I don't know if you remember that day.
Yes,
You
of course.
certainly
Surely,
do.
yes.
Yeah. And I remember on television some were trying to climb back up the ladder to get over a fence. Some of the judges.
Yes. No,
It was a very, very bad time.
yes, and they became worse, of course, as years evolved. The political situation only became worse. You were there in 1996
Yeah, that probably is right.
for the third Latin American
Yeah.
Mycological Congress, and things just became worse and worse throughout the years as we had all the changes in government, etc., specifically for science. I remember for that Congress, we did have university help and we did have university funding in order to make that Congress come true.
Right.
And we were able to accept also funding from elsewhere. So we had funding from the National Science Foundation projects, and so we made a merge and were able to have those pre-Congress courses, which were wonderful for so many Latin American students and also for all the experts that came throughout the world.
I remember we had a wonderful trip to the forest in a blue bus, a baby blue bus. That was so much fun.
Yes,
Better times.
yes, you were great, and it was such a wonderful experience.
So I remember your university very well because it is known for having a big mobile art piece, very
Yes.
large. It's just beautiful. So I know that you have had some troubles in your mycological life, and could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, only becoming a mycologist was very difficult for me. Uh, um, Choosing the field of mycology and having to go on field trips was something that was very much against my family. So,
So you had trouble with your family.
I
at
started
first.
having trouble with my family, who were not happy with my going to the south of Venezuela as a 20-year-old undergrad to do my thesis in the Amazon, which was really what I wanted to do. So I was forced to pay a woman friend to come with me for every trip, and if not, I would not be able to go to the Amazon or
A
to
chaperone.
a chaperone
Yeah.
or to any field trip at all. So that was the startup of my mycological career until I got to Cornell and for graduate work.
So how did you go to Cornell?
Well, at that time, the government had funding for fellowships, and I was very lucky to get a scholarship from the Becas Gran Mariscal de Ayacucho to do graduate work. And I was also very lucky to be accepted at Cornell University in the plant pathology department for a master's. Thanks to Richard Korf, my mentor, he insisted that I should not only stay with a master's, but go on further with a PhD, which I had never thought a woman could do. So I went further and finished a PhD in mycology, and that was really what I owe my life to. Having a PhD in mycology, then I returned to Venezuela, was able to get a position at Universidad Simón Bolívar, where you came,
Yes.
and continued keeping lots of good interactions with mycologists as you elsewhere. And through those interactions and cooperation, I really was able to have students, teach students. Well, we both have a common student.
We have a common student, Hector Dina.
Hector, yes.
And we love him.
Yes, we do.
And he's done good work. And he works very, very hard.
Yes, it's wonderful. And then Melissa Mardones also.
Yes.
and other students as well that are around the world carrying the Venezuelan good word and working in different labs.
So tell me a little bit about your background. I know you come from an illustrious family, descended from a person who was the right-hand man of Simon Bolivar. Is that right? Have I
Yes.
remembered correctly?
Yes, you do. Well, the first Iturriaga that came to Venezuela came before him, came in the 1700s with a Compañía Guipuzcoana. He was from Basque origin in Spain, and those were the times when the Compañía Guipuzcoana wanted to take control on the cacao trade in Venezuela. So they founded that company, and they hired him because he was an adventurous man, and he was going to the Amazon and in the commission of making the limits between Venezuela and Brazil and other countries. So that I come from that line. Eventually, another Spanish person from the other side of the family, both my fathers, but my grandfather and my grandmother, came to Venezuela with Simon Bolivar, as you know, to fight with him, and became on one of the very important battles that permitted our independence. But he was from the Romero last name.
Okay.
And Jose Romero married a Venezuelan woman, and he got land from Simon Bolivar as a prize for his being his right-hand man and guiding all these important battles.
Oh. And I've read a wonderful novel. It's called The General and His Labyrinth. And it's about that early time when Bolivar came to Venezuela.
Oh.
When he was there. Have you read it?
I have not read it, but
Yeah.
I've heard about it, so I
it's
will.
very nice. And I just wanted to tell you something, too, about your name, Iturriaga. Do you know that it's in the sidewalk? It's engraved in the sidewalk in Boise, Idaho.
Really?
There is a Basque part of town where a number of Basques came. They came as sheep herders, and they're well known for that in the western part of the United States. And so they had a community there in Boise, Idaho. And so all the names of the prominent families are written into the concrete.
Oh,
So it's very interesting.
Thank you for telling me that.
You didn't know?
No, I did not.
Okay.
That's wonderful.
So you can go on now.
I will.
And talk a little bit about your family that wouldn't let you go on field trips alone. Your mother, I know I've met your mother, and
Yes. She's an artist. She's a well-known artist, and one would think that, and my father was a diplomat. I was very lucky to have a very cultured both father and mother, and grew up in a very multicultural environment and open-minded environment. But that was not to be with the two daughters. The two daughters were supposed to get married and have families, and maybe a little bit of study, but not so much. So it was very, very hard on me. And eventually, when I was little, I really wanted to be a boy, because my brothers had so much freedom, and we did not have any freedom at all. So I also changed my name. At a certain point, I was called Terry.
Terry. That can be a boy's name.
Yes. So for many years, I was only climbing trees and going to the mountains, and showing everybody that I could do what boys could do. And eventually, I managed to do whatever I wanted with my life, and my parents are very, very proud of me. My father passed away, but my mother continuously tells me how proud she is that I became a mycologist and became a biologist. I owe a lot of my career to my mentors, to people like Richard Korf that really pushed me and helped me get my PhD, and was always throughout his life mentoring me. And people like Donald Pfister, who also took me under his umbrella as Donald Pfister.
Don's done that for many people.
Yes, it was really, really wonderful. So it was difficult to do research in Venezuela, but with the help of all of you, including yourself, I had help and recognition from the mycological community in North America and internationally, who were always open to having a Venezuelan who had lots of trouble doing research in her own country come for the summers and sabbatical leaves, etc., and do research elsewhere. So I really have been always grateful to belong to this community.
It's a very helpful community, whether or not you need a visa to come work. And I must say that I'm so happy that you now have a stable visa and can really get to work in this country and stay.
Yes, yes.
And it's you have a daughter who's an American citizen, or is it your granddaughter?
My daughter is an American citizen. She was born at Cornell when I was doing my graduate work there, and but I never thought I would need to leave my country, and so I left with a J1 visa, which eventually does not permit me to get a residency meanwhile. So now I was very fortunate to, after going to the Farlow for 3 years, to the Farlow Herbarium with Donald Pfister, and to Illinois with Andy Miller and working at the Myco Portal, I was given the position as a curator at Cornell University, my alma mater. And I just started two months ago in that position, thanks to 20 wonderful and great, and I think really maybe a little exaggerated, but wonderful letters from all of you, and yours was a very important letter.
Very happy to have you here.
That permitted me getting that O visa, which is O for outstanding.
And you are.
Oh, thank you. And I'm there at Cornell, and I'm very, very grateful to continue being able to do mycology, and I hope that I will be as helpful to other people from Latin America now having a stable position and from other parts of the world being at Cornell like people have been with me.
And I should say your name is Teresa, but we call you Teresita, and we can't break the habit. But anyway, thank you so much for talking to us.
Meredith,
and
thank you.
You will be on YouTube.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
It's been a pleasure.